day, and we'll have another talk at 11:15, and then I believe lunch is at 12:30. But thank you all for showing up for James Whittaker's talk, The Data Economy. So James Whittaker is an author, speaker, creative leader, and a distinguished technical evangelist charged with showing Microsoft's vision of the future to the world. His career spans academia, startups, and top tech companies. In 1986, he was the first computer science graduate hired by the FBI. His career continued, specializing in test automation as a freelance developer, most notably for IBM, Ericsson, SAP, Cisco, and Microsoft. After joining the Florida Institute of Technology and later Microsoft, he then went on to Google and led teams working on Chrome, Maps, and Google Plus before returning back to Microsoft, where he works now. So with that, James?
All that stuff. Data is the new oil. The people who possess it, the people who curate it, the people who refine it, the people who distribute it, and the people who make that last journey to the end user are the ones who are going to generate all the wealth of your generation. In fact, they're already doing it. They're generating wealth. Look at the value of the companies that manage and deliver data. We're already using it in political campaigns. The leaders of the free world over the next several generations are going to get there through superior analysis of data. Sports teams aren't going to win trophies without being able to analyze the data generated by their opponents. Data is the new oil. And what we're experiencing now is nothing short of the Industrial Revolution with data. Because power is going to shift. Wealth is going to shift. It's happening right now. And in fact, we're at a moral crossroads in the industry right now. Because the old tools that we use to produce, manipulate, and deliver data are becoming useless. The data is overwhelming them. They're the tools of the last decade, and I'm going to talk about those. We're also at a crossroads because new tools are coming online really quick, and the world's not ready for them. Quantum computing, the Internet of Things, these things fundamentally change the way the world is going to manipulate data, and the world's not ready for it. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next half an hour or so. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about the old tools, and we're going to talk about the new tools. And this is the first one, browsers. Browsers have been around since 1994. There's two of them right there. The first one is Netscape Navigator, published in 1994 using the Alta Vista search engine, I think. And this is what you did in 1994. You launched the browser, and then, get this, you typed into a text box, and then you hit enter, and then the magic occurred. You got back 10 blue links. That's how it worked in 1994. But of course, that was 20 years ago. We've come a long way. The second browser there is Google Chrome and using the Google search engine. Now, let's talk about how it works. You launch it, you type into a text box, you hit enter, and you get back 10 blue links. This isn't progress. This is stagnation. This is no way to treat data. Oh yeah, sure, back when you got 10 blue links out of 20 possible documents, this is probably a really, really good tool. But that ain't what is happening anymore. We're getting 46.6 million results with a very simple query. 46.6 million. We're only seeing 10? Which 10? I'll tell you which 10. Browsers and the web is like high school. You're either popular or you buy your way into the popular class, or you're invisible. You were all there, right? You're in college now, but you remember it. You remember the invisibility. That's called page 2 of the SERP. How many of you have recently seen page 2? Let the record stand, there is more laughter than hands. How many of you have ever gone past page 4? Ever? Just for the hell of it, right? Oh, there. Let's look at all the invisible people. This technology is falling flat. This technology is favoring the wealth and the wealthy and not the relevant. We can do better. And there's a gentleman that came along who took a look at this and said, I don't like this whole web thing because I don't possess an index of the world's information. There's only 2 of those. Only 2 indices of the world's information in existence. Google's and Microsoft's. And there isn't a third. And there's not going to be a third until something amazing is going to happen. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this person I'm talking about is Steve Jobs. His company didn't have an index of the world's information. This whole search thing, this whole idea of getting data off the web doesn't look real good when you look through it with apple-colored glasses. So he invented this, the App Store. Now people credit Steve Jobs with a lot of visionary things. Industrial design was really good at that. This is what Steve Jobs did for the world, and this is brilliant. Do you understand his insight here? I think it's important that you understand this to appreciate the real genius of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs took one look at the World Wide Web and said, nobody really ever needs it. They only need a piece of it. Because every time they search, they're looking for something. A recipe, directions, a paper, an idea. Right? They don't need the web. They only need a part. We're task-based. Every time we use the web, we have a task in mind. That's the app. That's the beauty of the app. You see, the app can be task-based. There is no better way to get soccer scores than through a soccer app. Much better than the web. We play this game at Microsoft. We do this funny thing at Microsoft. We buy our own lunch. Can you imagine this in this day and age? We buy our own lunch. How old-fashioned, how retro. And when we buy our lunch, we all get together. We go out to lunch. We all throw down our credit cards at the end and we split the bill, except some lucky person gets to take their credit card out of the pile. We get the waiter, we get the waitress involved, and we said, ask us a question. And we all pull out our phones. This is so geeky. It's better than a free lunch. Ask us a question, any question. And he or she might say, what was the score of the LA Galaxy Real Madrid game? And everybody's got it. Doesn't matter if you know the answer. You've got to show it on your phone and you've got to display it. Everybody who uses a browser always loses. Always. Because the app is better. The app already knows the score. Browser's waiting. Oh, I wonder what part of the web you're going to need now. The app knows what part of the web you're going to need. Right? And it knows that part of the web is important to you because you took the time to go to the App Store and find it and download it and use it. Wow, that's a really strong signal. Way stronger than a search signal. Apps are better than the web. But they have a fundamental flaw. Do you know what it is? It's zombies. Have you seen this movie? This is the best movie ever. The best movie of all time. Number one, it's the best movie because it's got zombies in it. And folks, zombies are real. Come on, you all are university students. You all are smart. You know zombies are real. Not like that bullshit vampire stuff they tried to get us to watch a few years ago. Remember that? Give me a break. Zombies are real. Right? We can create the virus in the laboratory that turns off every other instinct except the need to feed. Right? It's coming. That's why this movie is so good. You got to watch them all, man. The apocalypse is coming, and you got to be ready for it. The other reason it's a great movie is because it's got Brad Pitt in it. You can take your date to a zombie movie. Are you kidding me? There's a shirtless scene in it. My date couldn't wait to go to a zombie movie. That makes it perfect. So here we are. We're sitting in the movies, and I'm going, oh, zombies. Right? And she's going, oh, Brad Pitt. And we're going, oh, zombies. Oh, Brad Pitt, until one moment, I'm stunned by this. She pulls out her cell phone, right? We haven't even gotten to the shirtless scene yet. What is this woman thinking? She pulls out her cell phone and starts looking at it, right? I'm like, zombies. And she's like, Cell phone, Brad Pitt, cell phone, Brad Pitt. And then to make it even worse, she starts counting. I hear her. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She touches me on the knee and says, I'll be right back. And she leaves the movie theater during this most perfect movie. I'm second guessing my taste in women at this point. Is she insane? I'm coming up with my breakup lines even as I can't wait to tell this. And she comes back and she sits down. Now, when you're at the movies and you leave and you go do something and you come back and you're with somebody, you turn to them and you say, what did I miss, right? And she didn't say, what did I miss? And so I thought, I'll be proactive. And I said, hey, you didn't miss anything. You know what she told me? She said, I know, because she has an app that tells her when to pee at the movies. Right? There's nothing weird. There is an app for that. Somebody has watched every single movie out there and they've curated all the data. Here's a new character's introduced. Don't pee now. Right? A plot twist is coming. Don't pee now. Oh, here's a boring part. Go take a leak. This is brilliant. All that data is up there in the cloud. Now, I ask you, how many of you all, by show of hands, how many of you all go to the movies? It's safe to say everybody. How many of you all have this app? One person has this app. I go to a lot. And apparently have a small bladder, right? This is the app discoverability problem. You guys just showed it to me. I didn't describe it to you. You all go to the movies. Some people go to the movies a lot. Here's something that will help you in your movie-going experience, and you don't even know about it. That's called the app discoverability problem, and it's a fatal flaw, an absolutely fatal flaw. We need to be able to do better than this. We need to be, in fact, I think we can. My phone right now is capable of geolocating me, not only on the planet, but vertically above it on the second or third floor. It's perfectly capable of saying, oh, that lat-long pair that James is standing at, I can look it up. Doesn't need me to do that. That's a movie theater. Aha, here's a map of the movie theater. He's in movie theater number 4. What's playing in movie theater number 4? A human isn't needed for any of this. None of it. And we don't need the app. Our phone is smart enough to say, I know what's going to help him. Here's all the stuff that's indexed in Azure. Do you hear that? I said Azure instead of cloud. That's called branding, right? It's going to get me promoted when I get back. I guarantee it. It's in the cloud. Here it is on his phone just in case he needs it. There it is. All we have to do is build a user experience around it. The technology is already there. We're just not using it yet. And this problem's going to get worse. Because the next thing I want to talk about is the Internet of Things. It's going to get worse and it's going to get better at the same time. Now this whole Internet of Things sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me, right? Oh, my toaster's online. Really? Oh, I can walk up to my house and it opens for me. It does that now, right? It doesn't need to be on the internet to do that. All of these scenarios that have to do with the Internet of Things are just so lame. Oh, I can turn your lights on for you. So can I. Watch. 1, 2, 3. But you're not saying anything. So I thought in order to test this theory, whether the Internet of Things was complete bullshit, I decided to put my hot tub on the Internet of Things. And let me tell you, my hot tub thought this. It was not happy for me at all. Consider the hot tub's point of view. Before I put it on the Internet of Things, I did everything for it. I checked its water quality. I checked the chemicals. I drove my car to the shop. I bought the chemicals. I come back. I did the mix. I turned on the pumps when they're supposed to be turned on. I tested the water. I did it all. Not anymore. Now it's doing the work. I put a water sensor, quality sensor in it, and it checks its own water quality. It knows how to order chemicals that it needs from Amazon and get Amazon to deliver them to my house. No input from me whatsoever. And in fact, when Amazon perfects those damn drones, I'm thinking it's going to fly over it. That's why I also have the opening on the Internet of Things, right? So from my cell phone, I can literally open and close my hot tub. See, people are like, oh, I want to detect whether my kids are having a party at my house. This is the Internet of Things. I don't want to detect whether they're having a party. I want to fuck with them while they're partying, right? You're in my hot tub. I'm going to close your ass up on it. Right? My house is going to appear haunted. Nobody's going to want to party at James's house. So it's on the Internet of Things. It's doing the work now. Now imagine that hot tub. Right now it's lonely as hell on the Internet of Things. It keeps going, hello world, and the world keeps going, nothing. But imagine all those hot tubs on the Internet of Things. They can all talk to each other. They could say, hey dude, where are you getting your bromine, right? I know they're going to call each other dude. As soon as they can all talk to each other on the Internet of Things, it's going to be like, dude, hook me up with your alkalinity test. I need it. And they're going to be able to talk, and they're not going to be able to be fooled. How do you advertise to a hot tub? How do you put up an ad and say, oh, you've got to have this chemical? It doesn't care because all those hot tubs can talk. They can get to the truth of things. You can't buy your way into truth. Or just because you're selling a cheaper chemical doesn't mean it's good because the hot tubs can talk. The hot tubs can say, that chemical that they sold me, my water quality lasts 3 days. That other chemical's lasting 8. They will get to the truth. The machines will know. They cannot be fooled by advertisement. This is not a popularity contest. This is data. This is truth. By the way, my kegerator's next. When I get home, I've got the weight sensor. It's thin enough to fit under the keg, and my keg can still fit. Full-size keg can still fit in my kegerator. It's next, man. It's going to be ordering its own beer, and it's going to be beautiful. But even the bugs I'd be happy with the bugs, right? So James, you got 8 kegs sitting on your front porch. That's an awesome bug. I love it. There is going to come a time in the very near future where there's more data on the web that's generated and consumed by machines than generated and consumed by humans. More. All the hot tubs, all the kegerators, all the refrigerators, they're all talking to each other. You can't advertise to a machine. What do we do in the ads economy of the browser and the app? This is my generation's gift to you. Billboards online. That's the only idea my generation had to monetize the web. That's it. We don't know how to do anything else. Pop it up. Who cares? Place some ads on it. Make some money. You guys got to do better than that. You've got to do better than that. In fact, you have to. The ads economy breaks down when you put machines on the web because you can't advertise to them. Now you have an opportunity here because there's one other piece of technology that's coming. I didn't believe in quantum computing 5 years ago. I believed it was a really cool area to research. I believed it was an awesome, mind-blowing thing to talk about. You mean a register can be more than 2 states? More than a 0 and a 1? Right? I mean, there can be like 8 values of maybe all at the same time. This is a fundamental change in the way computers are built. They are going to be so much faster. They are going to be so much more powerful that entire data centers, buildings, have you seen a data center? You call yourself computer science majors and you haven't seen a data center yet. Go on a field trip. It's one of the most important things you can do, and you better do it quick because they're an endangered species. As soon as quantum computers are readily available, and we are not talking decades, folks. We are not talking decades. As soon as they are available, most of the world's data centers will fit into a room this size. The data centers, the buildings that house these computers right now are going to be the abandoned strip malls for your all's generation to figure out what to do with. You can't just make cool apartments like we did with all the strip malls because they're out in the middle of nowhere. Good luck with that. I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe that's where you can store the bodies during the zombie apocalypse. This also changes the information game. Right now, I made a point that there are only 2 companies that have an index of the world's information, and there can't be a third. They can try. Go ahead. Write your crawler. Let it go. Start building your own index. The web is growing faster than you can index it. your index will always have holes in it. There's only two, there will only be two until we can crawl it with quantum computers. Then it's feasible for anyone to build an index of the world's information. It's feasible for Emily to build an index of the world's information. I had dinner with Emily last night, and she tweeted. And that's it, right? If you if you drink a beer with me and you tweet in my general direction, I will always remember your name. Any of us, including Emily, can build an index of the world's information. In fact, we can not only build it, we can carry it around in our pockets. Quantum computers are really, really small. Imagine on your phone or whatever device we end up using in the future, an entire index of the world's information will already be there. It won't matter if you're offline. The difference between being offline and being online is going to be negligible, and you're only going to have to be online for a few seconds in order to have a complete update. How do you advertise to people who already got the shit they need? Advertisement breaks down. Those billboards, our gift to your generation, my generation's gift to your generation. No one's going to need to look at them ever again. The machines are going to be able to figure out the data to know what you need. They're going to know, the hot tubs are going to know, the kegerators are going to know. They're not going to need your input. The information that you might need as a human initiator of a transaction is already going to be on your device. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. There's no middleman. There's no ads. What are you going to do? How are you going to make money? Please come up with a solution to this, because you see what we're doing right now to the world. The rich are getting richer. Your information that you're putting on the web is paying for people's yachts. You're enriching the billionaires, and the middle class is disappearing. Read Jaron Lanier's book. The whole world should read his book. Who Owns the Future? It's called. Look it up. Read it. Steal it if you have to. He won't care. I'm going to give you some hints, because I think this is already happening. We are already beginning to see the replacement for the ads economy. We are already beginning to see little communities of data economies are popping up. Amazon's book authoring is one of those, where people pay subscriptions to Amazon Prime. They pay a fee, and then they borrow books for free, and Amazon takes the money that they get from the subscriptions and pays it out in micropayments. They call it nano payments. I'm a little more greedy than nano. I call them micropayments. Micropayments to the authors, right? And that's the idea. It's a value economy. If you are producing value to the ecosystem is going to pay you back from the people who subscribe to it. The ecosystems that provide the most value are going to get the most subscription money. The people who provide the most value in the ecosystem are going to share in proportion to the value that they produce. Let me show you how this is going to work in the very near future. This, you all should all recognize. You're all computer science students. This is an IDE. It's called Visual Studio. And what happens here works now, although the payment part, I am encouraging Microsoft to start. Here's how it works. You ever get the feeling, I love talking to developers, you ever get the feeling when you're coding something that whatever it is that you're coding, someone has already coded it before, right? All the tens of millions of programmers that somebody's already coded it. And I always get the feeling that somebody smarter than me has probably coded it too. Well, Visual Studio recognizes that. We've indexed the world's information with respect to code. MSDN, GitHub, all these places where code hangs out. Bing has indexed it. And now Visual Studio said, fine, thank you, Bing. We'll take over from here. And you can right-click on your desktop. You've got to install an add-on called Code Search, and this will work for you. Right-click on your desktop, and it says, how do I? But you could imagine a Cortana interface with this, right? Because we've already announced Cortana for Windows 10. You could announce, sorry, Cortana, help me code this. Or maybe we can even be more proactive, and Cortana could be watching and say, dude, you're really not very good at this. I see you're trying to read a file line by line. Let me help you. Someone's coded that before. Now, let me go out and see if Visual Studio understands this index of the world's code. And it understands that this dude right here has coded some stuff, but he wants to be paid for it. So if you use his code, you now have to come clean on that encumbrance. But she put it out there for free, right? And so now we don't have to, you're free to use this, you'll never be sued because, she doesn't know any good lawyers. And not only does it copy the code into your workspace, it looks at your declarations and renames all the variables for you so you don't even have to do anything. By the way, you can't tell my boss about this. My boss thinks I'm an excellent programmer because of this tool, right? All the code I write anymore, except for my hot tub, I had to code all that from scratch. But other than my hot tub, all I write is glue code, right? I'm gluing together smarter people's work. That's all I do. Lovely. Now you can imagine how people could be paid for this. If you produce a ton of code that gets reused, Visual Studio's got money. They charge for their tool. You're producing value for that economy. That's how it's going to work. This is a community, a closed community of people called the people who know how to code. This is a tool that they buy, they contribute value to the ecosystem, and the ecosystem pays them back for it. That's how the data economy is going to work in the future. It's going to work with more than just code. PowerPoint. While you're making slides, while you're trying to tell a story about your idea, PowerPoint doesn't need you to stop. Go to a browser, go to Bing, go to Google, find some images, do some research, do all that work, and then come back. PowerPoint is perfectly capable of searching the web for you. And that's what it's doing here. It's called a PowerPoint Assistant. It'll find you the information. It'll even look at your slide and say, oh, you're talking about a basketball player. You're talking about Michael Jordan you drafted. That's the basketball player you're talking about, not the other million Michael Jordans that are out there. I'll help you get data for that, right? No more round tripping to a browser. No more round tripping to an app. This is a community. It's a community of people who buy and use and contribute to the PowerPoint ecosystem. These are two examples, plus the Amazon example. These are examples of the web going away. We're really stealing a page out of Steve Jobs' book here. Steve was right when he recognized that that the web is task-based and that the app is a better model to do that. What we're doing is that we're extending it to the apps that you already use, and we're building communities around those apps. Visual Studio isn't just an IDE that you type in code and it compiles and builds stuff for you. It is also the part of the web that has to do with other coders. It's the part of the web that connects you to other people who are doing this. It's a community. That's my prediction for the future. The web is going to be broken into pieces based on these communities. Here's another one. And this is, I'm going to introduce a complication in this too, because there's intent in this email. And email is a huge community of people, a tool that people use to talk to each other. Hey, you want to meet at this bar? Hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do that? And people have to keep going to apps and have to keep going to the web to close that loop. We don't need to do that anymore. This is an email. Actually, this email always bothers me. I got to call out Microsoft Legal because they changed my daughter. This is an email from my daughter, my real daughter, and I got these slides approved by Microsoft Legal, and it came back. Her name is Bailey. She has blonde hair. My slides came back, and it's a brunette Jennifer all of a sudden. And so I called them, oh, what did you do to my daughter? And we changed her name. If you don't like it, we can select another one, right? She could be Heather if you'd like. And I said, why have you done this, right? We put a lot of time into making, raising, and naming her, and you've taken her away from me. And they said, oh, James, we're concerned about your daughter's privacy. And I said, you are? Have you seen her Facebook page? She doesn't give a shit about her privacy. Why should you? But anyhow, so if you ignore that, this is a real email from my daughter. And she said, hey, Dad, one of my favorite bands of Monsters and Men is coming to the Paramount Theater. Will you take me? And I'm frightened at this email. I have to admit, I was frightened. As a parent, the one thing you do not want to discover about your kid is their taste in music. Because if it's bad, right, if it's somebody named Justin, right? Seriously, if your first name is Justin, I don't care what your last name is, just shut up. Like, none of us want to hear you. Just shut up. And I live in fear of this band of monsters and men. And what kind of name is that? I'm from Seattle. We have badass names for our bands, right? Alice in Chains, baby. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, rah. Strong names of monsters and men. What kind of goofy ass name is that? So now, instead of an app, instead of the browser, I just asked Cortana to help me with this, and Cortana says, yep, I know about 2 things in this email. This isn't magic. Bing does this already through a browser. Why not enable an email client to do it? Why not take the web community out there, the piece of the web that can help people who email, and bring it into email, another community, just like the Visual Studio community, just like the PowerPoint community. And then I can click on Of Monsters and Men, and I get Of Monsters and Men. And it turns out no one named Justin is in this band. Good. Secondly, they're from Iceland. I mean, who the fuck is from Iceland? That's just kind of cool anyhow. I don't even know if there were people there. I swear Tolkien went there and discovered elves. But it turns out there really are people there, and they can sing. Now, I haven't killed the web. This is the web. This is a JavaScript. Outlook knows JavaScript just as good as a browser does. It knows CSS just as good as a browser does. It knows HTML5 just as good as a browser does. And all that is here. I can even listen to the music. Let's see. Let's make sure this is not Justin. That's a good song. Like Chrissy Hine and Janis Joplin.
These records she said, I think I'll tell you.
Sing to me. Now the question is, I am going to see this band, no doubt about it. Now the question is, am I going to take her with me? No, seriously, we legalized marijuana in the state of Washington, and Seattle has gotten really interesting really fast. You know, it's amazing, right? You start selling weed, and it's just like Amsterdam. All the red lights turn on, right? I only thought it made you hungry. I had no idea. Right, so now I don't mind these places, but I don't want to go there with my daughter, right? Yeah, the creepy factor would be too much. So I got to figure out whether Paramount Theater is a place that's far away from that 2nd Street area. And it is. I can get a map here. I can buy tickets here. I can look at nearby restaurants here. I can figure out where to park here. I can get directions here, and all that stuff is packaged up and copied to my calendar automatically where I need it. So I won't have to search for it again. Right, this is an experience normally containing browsers and apps, all now within an email community. So are you getting the picture here about communities? There's some really powerful things that we can do with these. It's not just Microsoft tools that can do this. These are third-party APIs that exist in the Bing development environment. This is Twitter, and Twitter pisses me off on a regular basis. This is a real tweet that I tweeted last winter. Traveling to Boston and New York City next week. Any locals who can hook me up with some good live music recommendations? This tweet pissed me off. I've got a few thousand followers. How many of them live in Boston or New York? Some. How many of those followers who live in Boston and New York happen to be in tune to the live music scene? And happen to be watching when the maelstrom that is their Twitter feed happened to flash by. I can tell you exactly how many. 0. I got 0 replies to this tweet. And I thought, because Twitter doesn't have a community. Twitter's broken. I'm tweeting my followers. I want to tweet the people who can help me, right? So that's what I did. Turns out Bing's ingested the Twitter, all the Twitter accounts and the Twitter stream, all the Twitter data. And so I was able to take that tweet, run it through Bing's intent engine, and Bing came back and said, rather sagely, oh, you're looking for live music venues in Boston and New York. And then I asked that, okay, go look in the Twitter accounts and find out all the accounts that claim to be live music venues in Boston and New York, and I wrote a little script that sent that tweet directly to all of them. And guess what? They all have media people who are looking at their Twitter stream. That's what they do. And check it out. Within 1 minute, I got back 3 tweets. Actually, I got back, this is just 3 on this page. I think there was about, in the first 10 minutes, I got like 20 some odd tweets. I mean, it was actually almost too many. But look at the first one. The first one's a Hyatt Regency Boston recommending a jazz club called the Beehive. Jazz. Yuck. Dismiss. Right? And see, that Twitter has that mechanism built into it. Dismiss this thing. I don't want this. That's a strong signal. That's more data telling me that that is not a piece of value, that is not a piece of data that this person values. Okay, my machine learning can take that into account next time. The second one was the Boston Symphony saying, come fall asleep. Come check out our classical music. And I'm like, dude, marijuana hasn't been legal long enough for me to get into this shit. Sorry. And there's the Orpheum Theater. You all got one here, too. They play rock and roll. Cage the Elephant is there. What a great band. The Foals, I saw them in Seattle. What a great band. I went to that because of this much code in Twitter. That's how easy it is to turn the web into useful communities. No ads. In fact, hard to find places for ads. The browsers are perfect for ads because they have those stops built in. This is why browser technology hasn't gone anywhere for 20 years. Because of the ads. They need you to stop. Oh, we interrupt this search for a commercial presentation. Right? That's what they do. Not here. It's very difficult to figure out where to place ads here. You can do it, but it's not the best way to enrich the community. It's not in the best interest of the community. Okay, so, and then of course you can get the entity card and all the web right there in all of its glory. Let's look at this. This is what travel looks like booked through a calendar, because a calendar is another one of these communities. All the temporal events on the web are much better to be viewed on a calendar rather than in a browser. Same as for a map, except spatial intents, right? All the types of spatial data is much better when searched for and rendered on a map than in an open browser. So here's what it looks like, right? Hey, let's find a place. I want to go to Hawaii because the sun never shines in Seattle. How about we go that week since I don't have much there, and go get me the flight data for Sunday. And the flight data comes in because Bing's already indexed it all. Bing knows about every single flight, takeoff, landing. It's got all the on-time data. We even, I don't think we do this anymore, but we used to even predict when the price was going to go up or when the price was going to go down and tell you when to buy the ticket. I think we pissed off the travel industry with that one. But look at it. What AM, PM, layover math, right? You don't have to do any of that. You see, when you pick the right canvas for data, it just looks better. You're not going to buy accidentally buy a red-eye flight, which happens every single day. People accidentally book flights thinking they left at 11 a.m. and they actually leave at 11 p.m. Of course, no one in this room has ever done it, but it happens at an alarming rate. In fact, I think it happens, as statistics show, that a lot of people in this room have done it at least once. So you can see that, right? Because it's on a calendar. The resolution of this projector was a little bit better. You could see it a little bit better. And so you pick one, right? I'll take that one right there. How about that nonstop flight? That looks good. Now, is that magic? Oh, calendars don't know how to book travel, James. This is impossible. Booking travel is code. And that code is embedded into an app. That code can be embedded into a browser. That code can be embedded into a calendar where it belongs. Travel is one of those communities focused around a calendar that no longer needs advertisements. Let me show you how it works, because this is a signal now. This is a signal, hey, there's a family, say a family of 4 or 5 or whatever, breeders and money spenders coming to the island of Maui. Who wants them? They're going to need a place to stay. And this is a value auction. This is not an advertisement. This is not someone saying, hey, I will give you more money than anybody else so that I'm the first link. This is a value auction because we know how much these hotels historically charge. And you want to be first, offer a discount. Biggest discount gets on top. This is a value auction, not an ads auction. You don't buy your way to the top. You provide more value than everybody else. These are the economies of the future, based on value. But you can still go, right? No, we don't want any of those. We'll take that one. And then you book it. What else might you need? How about an auction for snorkeling? How about an auction for hiking in the woods? How about all the things that you might do on the island of Maui? We already know what they are. They're already there. They're already on people's websites. And if you asked the people in Maui, hey, we're going to do this value auction thing. Why don't you give us your data? Guess what they say? Oh, hell yeah. You mean we don't have to buy ads? You mean we don't have to bribe our way to the top? You mean you're only going to display our stuff when someone's actually looking for it? It's not just this isn't just some poor bastard in Illinois freezing his ass off or her ass off wondering what a beach looks like. It's cold out there today. Come on, guys, you can laugh at that. It's cold out there today. It's not supposed to be cold. It's only October. This is somebody who's ready to book. It's a much stronger signal. Okay, I want to leave some time for questions. So you can see how this would go, right? You can click, you can drag. We know the open and closing times. We know the slots. You don't have to keep telling us. Go ahead, do this in a browser. First thing you're going to do is say, all right, I want to leave on Sunday, May the 12th, and then you're going to go do your flights. And then you say, okay, now I want hotels, and the hotel's going to say, when are you getting there? Oh, I want to get there on Sunday, October. The calendar knows. It's just easier. So you can see how you could finish this. All right, so here's the things that I showed you today. I talked about intelligent devices, ambiently intelligent devices, using their smarts to look things up for you. You're in the movie. I'm going to hook you up with some movie stuff, right? They know. Apps are no longer nouns. They're verbs. They're no longer something you must possess. They're either something you already possess or they're the functionality. Why do I need the app? I only want to know when to pee. We are going to be very much more verb-based in the future and not noun-based. Apps, we're only interested in the functionality. We're only interested in the action. Internet of Things, it's changing things. Machines are generating more and more and more of our data. They're initiating more and more. Our hot tubs are taking care of themselves. They don't need humans. In fact, the Internet of Things is quite scary. Imagine none of our devices needing us. Imagine all of our devices taking care of themselves. Imagine my hot tub being able to say, hey, I'm running at a higher voltage for the last week. Something's wrong with me. Let me talk to all the other hot tubs and say, oh yeah, that happened to me too. And the seals, the bearings on my pump were going out. You need to get those fixed. Okay, thank you for telling me that. How about if I have a little 3D printer inside my hot tub and I print the bearings? And then there's a bunch of little nano rope. Well, maybe not that. Maybe we might still have to make a call and have a human. But do you see, the humans are becoming much more optional. The more optional we become as humans, the more important it is for us to be able to generate an economy based on value than based on ads. The photography industry used to employ hundreds of thousands of middle-class jobs. All that wealth is now concentrated in the 13 people who work for Instagram. This cannot continue. The ads economy no longer works. And it's your generation that's going to have to fix it. So are you guys ready to think about this? You guys ready to create a digital society that people can actually enjoy, that actually works on behalf of the humanity? Because it's up to you. Your time on this planet is a lot longer than my time on this planet. I hope I've given you something to think about. My name is James Whittaker. I work for Microsoft, and I'm finished. Thank you. I feel like like talking. So if you all have questions, I will answer them. Yes, sir.
So if we get rid of the ads economy, though, then that means that these companies that are providing value, though, there's no incentive for them to pay the service to appear there, right? How would Facebook make any money if people aren't paying them for their ads, if it's only based on value, and Facebook has to figure out who's the most valuable, then there's no money exchange between the two services, right?
All right, I'm going to have to repeat that, aren't I? Because this is being recorded, and there are a whole bunch of questions in there. But let me start at the beginning. You asked if we get rid of the ads economy. It's never going to fully go away, right? What I want to do is I want to reduce the planet's reliance on ads. I want to reduce the reliance on this popularity contest that is the internet. I want to reduce the ability for the wealthy to buy their way to the top. So it's a reduction, not an elimination. And you were asking about, well, what about companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter that basically make all of their money selling ads on data that's not theirs? It's yours. And they're floating yachts with the proceeds. How concerned am I that they will no longer be able to float their yachts? You all are awfully quiet.
I don't mind Facebook having my data.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, Facebook doesn't have my data. I've never bothered with an account. I have an invisible account. Just the dev APIs is all I want from them. And I don't mind the internet having my data either. But if there is a choice between floating their yachts and being able to share in that, I'll take the shared part of it. More questions? Yes, sir.
So just in the last week, I think there's been 3 major security breaches of banks and
Yeah.
other groups. With more and more data about everything in our lives being online, how do we deal with that? Like the example with your daughter at the concert, someone knows you're going to be at a concert, where you are, when you are, everything about you. That just seems like a recipe for disaster. How do we deal with that?
So we're asking how do we deal with security. The security problem in the value economy is no different than the security problem in the ads economy. The data is still there. The data still has to be protected. And we still need to get very good at protecting it. So the people that we are paying subscriptions to, that we pay out they really need to get better at security. Security is I think, a competitive advantage. If somebody can figure it out, they're going to be more interesting to the rest of the planet than if the people who don't figure out. But therein also lies a problem. How do you brag about how good your security is, right? Let's say you figure it out. Let's say Verizon or T-Mobile or somebody figures it out. It's a very hard thing to advertise because the minute you say our security is better than everybody else, you become the target, right? Vulnerabilities are always going to be there, and the louder you are at saying how good your security is, the more of a target you're going to become just so they can have bragging rights. We're going to have to continue to escalate this. Quantum computers are going to help. Right? Quantum computers are going to be much more difficult. They're going to be able to have much better cryptography. They're going to have to be able to have much better hashes, and it's going to be harder to hack them until the bad guys get quantum computers and can use the quantum computers to hack the other quantum computers. It's just like any other arms race. But I haven't made the problem any harder. It's a difficult problem. Yes, sir.
This might sound like a funny question, but it's
I
actually...
hope it is funny. I could use a laugh.
What kind of beer will your kegerator order?
So actually, what kind of beer will my kegerator order? My kegerator will order fine craft beer. So I have about 13 breweries within a 2-mile radius of my house in Seattle.
So that means that there's a value auction, right? At some point, you've got to decide what beer.
Well, so my kegerator will know, okay, James just ordered this, he ordered that. Wow, that beer really disappeared fast. He liked that beer, right? That my kegerator won't have visibility. I guess I could put a Connect on it and see how many different people. Ooh, that's a good idea. How many different people? Right? Because I have a party and I run out of beer. I don't want that signal to be like, oh, James loves this beer. I'm always going to order this beer. But so over time, my kegerator, maybe at the beginning, I'll tell my kegerator, hey, I like these beers. And over time, my kegerator might get smart It might look at the reviews and say, oh, the people that like that beer also like that beer. I'm going to try ordering that one for James. And there's going to be a value auction. People are going to be competing. James needs another keg. We've got an excess of Pilsner. How about we give him a 30% discount on a keg because we want to get rid of this keg, right? And that's how the economy is going to work. You can imagine an economy like this working for lunch. Okay, here we are. All the 6 of us are going to go out for lunch after this. Who wants our business? And if it's noon and every place is full, no one's going to want to pay for that, to be in that auction. But if it's 2 o'clock and you're empty, yeah, come on in. One of you eats free, something like that. Right? You can imagine how these will work. I want you to do more than imagine how they work, though. I want you to code these things. Any more questions? Yes, Emily.
Where do you feel that we are in each of the fields of big data, machine learning, and quantum computing, like just breaking the ice, or just kind of in the middle of the process, or is there a shortage of people really breaking it?
Where are we in figuring out all these things and implementing all these things in terms of technology? I think we are well down the way of figuring this out. Machine learning, because of the algorithms that I'm making fun of, the things that I'm making fun of, like browsers and search, those ranking and relevance algorithms that Google and Bing have are based on machine learning, right? And it's the same algorithms we're going to need to have to be able to do ranking and relevance in a value economy. So some of those pieces are really crucially important. I think machine learning, IBM kicked all the Jeopardy champions' ass, right? They even had to slow that computer down just so the humans had a chance. That's stunning. Chess, yeah, very closed search space. No one. I'm not too impressed that we beat the guy in chess. I was pretty impressed. But Jeopardy? Holy cow, we killed him. And we did it offline. IBM did it offline. Crazy good. Quantum computing. A few years ago, I wasn't sure if it was going to ever be real. Maybe it's going to be one of those long-term dreams. I'm sure it's going to be real. And it's going to be real, I think, not in decades. It's going to be real. You guys are going to be programming quantum computers. I might be programming a quantum computer one of these days. Good question. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
It seems like your system causes a positive feedback loop after you do, find exactly what you want and buy it for a while. So how would a new company with a new product get introduced into this?
How would a new company with a new product get introduced into the value economy? So in the ads economy, they've got to buy their way to the top. They have to buy an ad. They have to spend money advertising to people who may or may not ever want them. In the value economy, they're going to know when people want them because the signal is stronger. Hey, somebody's looking for this exact thing, right? Our devices have figured it out. They need this. Okay, offer them a better deal. That's what it's going to be. I am going to give you a better deal than anybody else is going to give you on that. And it's basically the same code underneath an ads auction that's underneath a value auction. It's the same code, except the impetus isn't just to buy an ad and get impressions or click-throughs. The impetus is, here's what the value everyone else is providing. You're going to have to do better than that in order to get noticed. And I think that's a strong signal. If you can't provide better value, why are you doing this? If you can't provide something that is better than what's out there right now, then don't. You all both raised your hand at the same time. I'll take you because you left yours up. You gave up. Come on, be persistent, man. Be persistent. Go ahead. Yeah.
Is there a place for privacy in the next couple of decades? Do you see privacy at all?
Privacy, geez. What a can of worms privacy is. When I worked for Google for 3 years, and I was traveling in Europe, and of course Gmail was our corporate email client, and I get an email from my son, and he was like 12 at the time, I think, and his email, and it was the breakup email. His girlfriend dumped him, right? He's like, "Oh, Dad, Anna dumped me. My heart is broken. This feels terrible. We broke up." And I'm over there sitting in Europe, and I'm beginning to tear up, and I look over to the right of my screen, and Gmail is giving me ads for divorce attorneys, right? Divorce attorneys. He's 12. I love it. It's like, come on, let's sue the little wench. So first of all, we have to agree as a society that this shit's creepy, man. Just stop reading my email. And stop making creepy recommendations based on things I didn't ask you to do. You see, privacy, I don't even think we know how to talk about it as a society. Here's the way I see privacy. It's a continuum. At one end of the continuum is the NSA. And at the NSA end of the continuum, you don't get a choice. They're going to look at your data. They're going to do stuff with your data. They're not going to tell you what they do with your data. And the value you get back is a vague feeling of being more secure? Really? All right, that's an extreme end of the spectrum. The other extreme end of the spectrum is Santa Claus. The Santa Claus end of the privacy spectrum, you know what you're giving up, right? He sees you when you're sleeping, you know whether you're awake. Okay, I'm in. Got it, right? Yeah, I'm in. And you know what you're going to get in return? You're going to get presents. And you know what the worst case scenario is? A lump of coal. That's not so bad. I can take that. So this is privacy. No choice, no value. You know what you give up, and you know what you get in return. So as a society, we need to discuss this. Where do we as individuals fit? Where do we as companies like Microsoft and Google and Facebook, who have the capability of doing the creepiest shit, where do we stand? Where do we stand in terms of being Americans? Where do we stand in terms of being Germans? Because they have a different feeling about it than us. Where on this spectrum do we all sit? And if we had this understanding, I think we could actually have a discussion about privacy that would be productive, instead of just saying, yeah, we all agree it's creepy. But that is the first step. Yes, sir?
How fast do you think you guys can integrate this? Because browsers are always going to be here. I don't think
So browsers will always be here, no question about it. Because there's always going to be that graduate student who has to do research, and they're really not quite sure what part of the web they want. I'm interested in this thing, and I know there's, 2 generations of papers out there that I'm going to have to sort through and figure out. And if there's been no community that's popped up around it, no value community that's popped up around this, I still need the web. So you're right. We're always going to need browsers. And so, we needed file cabinets too for a very, very long time. And some people still need those file cabinets, as backups or disaster recovery or whatever, right? Because not everybody is as good at disaster recovery as the O'Hare air traffic control guys, right? They excel at it, but other people not so much. Any more questions? We're just about out of time. All right, I'm done. Thank you, guys.